Man, the only malignant growth around here is the one on my fucking penis.
Yeah, your
That's
penis.
not good, guy.
Yeah, it's not
That
good.
boy
Guy.
is dry as hell. Let me tell you. Scaly, guy.
Definitely parasitic.
Only way it could be more scaly is if I was wearing a fucking lizard thong.
Reptilian?
Reptilian thong, guy.
God.
Which, if you've seen some of our old videos,
Yeah.
our brother really wore to a fucking fine thread. But anyway, yeah, man, we're going to talk about Malignant, the newest.
If you're still here after that intro, thank you.
We're going to talk about Malignant, the newest James Wan
Also known,
flick.
his friends, little known fact, his friends know him as Johnny Wetass. But only his friends, so don't call him that.
Yeah,
Just
don't.
yeah.
Do call him that on the set of Aquaman, though, because it's totally awesome and worth it.
Johnny Wetass.
That's how they get all that water, gang. But anyway, Johnny Wetass, a.k.a. James Wan, is kind of a divisive figure in some horror circles because, you know, there's a large contingent of horror fans that are very unwilling to kind of like accept something that has gained mainstream heat. And, you know, whether you actually think the movies are good or bad or whatever, there's no denying that he has quite the prolific career in the genre. You just can't deny that part. You know, we happen to be Wanites, you know, as well, when it comes to horror anyway. Not Aquaman, though. Boop. Boop. But anyway, I really, really like James Wan's work. And I was really excited to see Malignant, which he divulged. And you could just tell if you're an Italian horror movie fan from the trailers. He divulged was kind of his ode to Italian horror. And there is a lot of this movie that is straight out of the annals of fucking Italian horror. It's not so much so that it will alienate an American audience, but there's a lot of that stank on here. So if you're particular to that, especially when it comes to like these really broad washes of lights and musical stings that are particularly enticing to listen to, even down to some of the troublesome aspects of some would say of Italian horror, which we'll get into. But this is most definitely to me anyway feels like a love letter to that type of film. And if that is the case, I think on that level he achieved something pretty special for fans of Italian horror. Now, how does that affect anybody that's not familiar with that? I really don't know, but I think it's pretty interesting that he's introducing those elements to an American audience. And it seems that the movie was relatively well received. So that's pretty cool in my book. Now, if you haven't seen Malignant, it's about this chick that seemingly seems to have a psychic bond with a killer that is killing people that it becomes obvious as the movie progresses are linked to her mysterious past. And of course, you know, that unravels as the movie goes along to culminate in a I gotta say, pretty epic series of scenes that even if you don't like this movie, there's a couple of horror set pieces in this that are like when I saw it the first time I was like, damn, that's pretty fucking awesome, man. It just kind of like one of those moments where I was like, that looked amazing. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, this is your first time seeing it. Straight off the cuff, let's get to it. What do you think? Good, bad? Would you recommend? Would you not recommend? Would you say aloha?
Yeah, I liked it quite a bit. I have seen some mad hate online. I've seen the classic, if you see this as a comedy, it's pretty good.
I love when they say that.
It's so corny, man. Such a corny thing to say. Anyway, seen some mad hate, mainly thrown at the ending. But whatever, man. Like, the freaking people lick. I don't understand. If you go in freaking wanting to completely dissect something, a movie will always fall apart.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, sometimes you just gotta go in and enjoy whatever it's being presented to you, even if it's pretty far-fetched and ridiculous, which granted it is. But if you're just going in for along for the ride, it's pretty damn fun and pretty cool.
And in a lot of ways, I think it's very imperative that you do go along for the ride because though I really, really like this movie, I will say that it has one glaring weakness to any potential viewers. It's pretty predictable what's going on.
Yeah.
You know, I went into it with very little other than the trailer, and right from the beginning, I knew where it was going. Now, that could normally be a very bad sign, But in this case, the movie's so fucking enjoyable that it really didn't fucking matter, and it was more like waiting for these characters to figure it out. And thankfully, that wasn't annoying because that could also be a bad thing.
Yeah, I think a slight critique that I would have, mind you, it's not a huge deal for me because it is, like you said, it's more about the characters finding out what's going on. Is that it is kind of structured as a what's going on type of thing, even though it's, like you said, super clear what's going on from the beginning, but they still have this kind of thread of what's actually happening going on.
Now, that detail aside, I don't know if you'll agree with this. I mean, there are layers to the quote-unquote mystery that you may not get. You may get the general idea, but there are layers in here that they introduce that are fucking cool. Even if you get them, they're fucking cool, you know?
That's what I'm saying. Like, it's not necessarily a deal breaker, because even though I kind of got what was going on, even like how it was going to come together, it was kind of like interesting to see how the movie was going to piece it together. You know, it wasn't necessarily about the reveal. It was how they gave you the reveal. Really, it wasn't necessarily about what was coming. It was really the journey to get to what was coming.
And that's really, really fucking cool in the movie. The way they do give you the reveal, it's just like a horror fan wet dream. You know what I'm saying? Like it like builds up to a crescendo that's pretty fucking awesome in my opinion. And I think whatever opinion you may have on the movie, it's kind of like almost like a given that this character is pretty iconic, I guess. He's very, I'm not going to say original and unique because, you know, if you're familiar with some horror, you can see where the influence came from. But there's just something about it visually that really works, you know, and it's kind of, maybe it's because it's a pastiche of elements that we've seen before, kind of remade into this Gabriel character, which really comes off as an over-the-top, hateable horror villain that's also somebody that you want to see do horror villain stuff. You know, he's visually interesting. He's deplorable. He's just somebody that you are anxiously waiting to see fully unleash. And then when it does, you're like, well, I gotta go stroke off now. Probably to Gabriel.
I don't know about that. I wasn't whacking off my wiener.
I think you were, guys.
Nah, homie. Well, that's weird.
Nah, homie. Anyway,
I distanced myself from stroking off to this movie.
Nah, guy. Anyway,
what the hell, man?
If you're an Italian horror fan, you will get a lot of pleasure from a wiener.
Hold on, guy.
A wiener pleasure, no less.
There's a lot of weird sex thing going on here. I distanced myself from the sex shit.
You get a lot of sexual pleasure from from the lighting, the cinematography in general in this movie. Some of the camera movement, you know, it's straight out of Argento's book.
I gotta say, there's some Hitchcockian shit, like also, straight out of like Psycho and shit, especially in the house sequence. That was pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool, man. And even Gabriel is presented kind of like the black-gloved, giallo villain for a while, but with its own twist, which is pretty fucking cool. And the whole affair just feels very European to me, but in a way that's accessible to American audiences that are not familiar with it. And it won't hamper their enjoyment of it. It's just probably something they'll be like, wow, that was interesting, you know, especially the way they use, again, the lighting and the music. It's very, very European, you know. It doesn't come in the spots that you would expect it to. And when it does, it's almost hammy, but in a very delightful way. You know what I'm saying?
I agree. It is kind of, at times, a little over the top. I would describe this movie at times as extremely over the top, but not to a point where it's ridiculous. Like, it never broke it. You know, it was really enjoyable throughout. You know, I guess if you're gonna be a douchebag, I could see it being like, oh, this is shit or whatever. But if you're just gonna go along with the, I mean, if you don't like it, that's fine. But some of the responses I saw were just ass, you know.
They're referring more to the ones that are going to extremes.
Yeah. If you're going along with it, it's pretty fun, and you kind of get what they're trying to do. You know, there is some kind of like I said, really over the top moments that are just fun. They're obviously just put in there to be enjoyable, and it's really enjoyable.
Yeah, and it's got, on top of that, it's got great effects without an overdependence on CGI. Very little CGI. And if it is utilized, it's utilized to amplify the effect. So that's always appreciated, right? And in a lot of ways, this movie reminds me not only of the Italian films that it's honoring, but also kind of like that mini era of horror in the late 90s, early 2000s, where they were bringing all these William Castle movies back. It has kind of that air to it, you know, like a big scale, but it's still kind of, it's still tipping a hat to something that it clearly loves, you know. So you're, you know, kind of House on Haunted Hill and then 13 Ghosts and Ghost Ship and all that stuff. Like that little era kind of has that air too. What about Juan, guy? Opinion?
Oh, he's got weird suits. We're
Well,
talking.
besides his weird suits and his obviously short ass size, direction wise here, what do you think, guy?
I mean, the Wandmeister is always an interesting fellow when it comes to his camera movements and such. I think that in this one they're a little quicker. He's more active.
Mm-hmm.
I say like he's the one carrying
Running
on the
with the
camera.
camera.
But you know, it's a more active camera. It's not a slow. What's that word you like using? Languid.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah, languis. Anyway,
Just
it's not like, you know, what you're kind of used to in more recent James Wan, where
Yeah.
he lets stuff breathe and it's like these really wide. I mean, there is a lot of wide angle stuff, but it's a more active camera, and it's really cool to see.
and it's kind of cool because it ratchets up to that.
Mm,
It really begins kind of like intending to suggest that this
Yeah.
is something Wan-esque,
down to like
ghost-like.
some,
you know?
down to some kind of stuff that you kind of really expect from this kind of movie, like the not necessarily jump scares, but the implications of the jump scares that are
Right.
coming that never really happen, but they're there.
Yeah. It kind of plays with you a little bit, and then it just continues ramping up into this redonkulous, in a good way, scenario that ends up boiling out. Kudos to the music. I think it's pretty cool. I think the main theme that they use to punctuate things is, again, very reminiscent of Italian horror, and it's just kind of one of those, you know, that kind of sticks to you. I think it's pretty cool. I can only imagine like someone like Claudio Simonetti crossing his arms, staring into the void as his band plays his music for him. That's the thing that happens. Pretty cool, man. Anyway, if you don't know who that is, I'm not gonna explain. But anyway, the music is really cool, man.
It's pretty cool.
Really
I'm not gonna lie. The whole time I was listening to it, I was like, "Oh shit, is this a Johnny Wet-Ass original soundtrack?"
Johnny Wet-Ass LP.
It's
coming
pretty
soon.
good.
Yeah, enjoyable on a lot of levels. The fucking humor in this. It's always difficult to handle humor in a horror movie, and I think this is a good example of how to do it. It was very subtle. It was mostly through the main character's sister and her interactions, and then there's this other character, you know. But it was subtle, man. It was just like a thing that could add to the enjoyment, which, you know, man, some of these Marvel guys getting out of hand with excessive humor, and that can ruin a horror movie. When there's too much of that shit, you're like, come on, guy. Thankfully, that doesn't happen here, so that's always appreciated.
I did laugh at the tiny hands, though. No elaboration.
Tiny hands galore, guy. If you like tiny hands, maybe check this one out.
Yeah.
So anyway, what else, guy? Got anything,
Or
or
getting into mad spoiling, or no?
if you want to?
No,
We'll
I
talk
kind
spoilers if you want.
of want to, because it just came out.
Yeah, just watch.
It's,
Just watch the fucking movie.
it's a pretty cool one to go in. I mean, this you'll get it right away, but it is
It's
pretty
still
cool.
very
It's
enjoyable,
pretty
yeah.
cool too.
Now, what do I have to say? I'm pretty sure you know what I'm talking about. The two, really, they're kind of interlinked, but there's a pause in between them. Two big horror set pieces in this. Thoughts?
Yeah. Pretty good.
Was that like a Sam Elliott? Yeah.
Yeah, I liked them.
Yeah, man, it's pretty fucking rad seeing the villain go balls out in this, and just the way they show you that as as an audience member. It's cool. It's just bound to delight that particular sequence, even if you don't like the rest.
I
of
just can't wait till there's like some dumbass like freaking YouTube reviews where they're like, "Oh, this doesn't make any biological sense. This is like, who gives a shit? It's a movie."
Yeah, this is one of those where you just don't do that. You know,
Yeah.
just go along for the ride, gang.
Yeah,
It's why it's fun.
it really is why it's fun.
Yeah, it's one of those, man. There's always a movie to dissect.
It's not the one.
It's not the one. Just literally just like, do your thing. And if you watch Italian horror films,
That's what you don't want to dissect those guys.
you just watch it and you enjoy it. because you did that versus trying to deconstruct it.
Because if you deconstruct it, you look like the moron.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, it's just a really fun movie, and I think he's created an iconic horror character here with the bad guy Gabriel.
Johnny Wetass, I think.
Yeah, Johnny Wetass. Just a crowd pleaser of a character, So I'm gonna give Malignant. I'm gonna give it a 8.5, and I'm knocking down a few points because it is, as I said, pretty telegraphed exactly everything that's gonna happen, and that could deter you from enjoying it upon second viewing or whatever. This was my second viewing, and I still enjoyed it quite a bit, but I did have that thing, and I think it has to do with me being concerned if you were enjoying it or not, which is a thing I do. Where I was like, man, is this... The whole time I was thinking, is this coming off as too much for him? Or, But that's just me because there's some times that I'm like, damn it, I hope he enjoys this versus not, right? But I'm glad you did. But anyway, yeah, I was knocking a few points for that. But like we said, that's kind of part of the ride, man. So, yeah, really cool movie, really fucking fun. Great character in the villain. And go.
I agree with you in that it is pretty damned predictable. I would even say ridiculous. I would even at times dip into pretty stupid at times in what is in just the scenario. And that being said, it never stops being entertaining and fun.
Yeah.
I think it even kind of knows it's a little dumb.
Oh,
yeah. At times it feels like it. Like just in the opening, the chick has this line and it starts this weird theme that just comes off as mad corny, but you're like, that really works weirdly. Mm-hmm. There's just these really over the top moments that really work weirdly, and it's really enjoyable. So I just because I enjoyed it so much, I'm gonna give it a mad 9. That might be high, but I don't give a shit. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
I really like that Juan is showing. I mean, he's already done it, but I think a lot of people just connect him to Conjuring now. He's really showing like, look, there's this other stuff that I can do there, which is really fucking cool. And when you're a big name like that, that's something that even if you don't like Juan as a horror fan, you should kind of be like appreciative of that. There's someone that's like championing the genre.
Also, mad gruesome. If you like gruesome,
very gory,
very gruesome.
So there you go.
Gruesome scale.
I'll give it like a little 7 on the gruesome scale.
I'm gonna go 8, guy. That one sequence.
The sequence, yeah, that sucker goes that goes hard, guy. Harder than my fucking crustified cock is what you're saying.
God damn it, guy.
Anyway, let us know what you think about crustified cocks.
Shit.
And Malignant, because we're out.
Gruesome.